Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be customizing the Dinka Jester in Grand Theft Auto Online. A very old car. I've actually customized this before on the channel, but the last time I did it was almost a year ago. So I figured it's time to customize it again and give it a shot. Anyway, let's hop in and get customizing. Now I just want to say guys, the armor, brakes, engine, transmission, and the turbo are already done on this car. So we've only got cosmetic options, but we're going to go through them. So this car has front and rear bumper options. For the front bumper, we have a couple options. Personally, I like the carbon splitter in the canards better than the other two. So I think we're going to go... Actually, I don't know if I want to go with canards. I think we're going to go for the custom front splitter. Yeah, it looks the best to me. For the rear bumpers, we can go for the painted or the carbon. We're going to go carbon, of course. For the exhaust, we have 3 options here. Well, 4 technically, if you count the stock exhaust as well. I do like the race exhaust the best because it's a little bit brighter than the rest of them, so we'll go for that one. For the headlights, xenon, of course. You guys already know that. For the plate, yellow on black, not yellow on blue. And for the respray, I don't really know what I want to do with this car. I kind of want to go for something a little bit exciting, but not too flashy. So maybe like a dark red, like Cabernet red, or maybe sunset red. Actually, you know what? Garnet red looks really good. I think I want to go for garnet red. Let's go for that. Yeah, we'll do that for the secondary as well. I think it looks the best. Now, we can add a roll cage to this thing and a chassis upgrade, as well as we could do a roll cage with race modifications. Now, the race modifications do look really good. However, I'm just trying to decide if I want to make this thing into an actual race car or not. I think I will go for the race modifications because I do like the roof scoop and the front hood vent there. So yeah, we'll go for that. For the roof, we can add louvers to the rear window here. Let's go for it, why not? For the skirts, we got a few options. Let's go carbon because, I mean, it makes sense. It surrounds, you know, the bottom of the car, the same as the rear bumper and the front bumper. So yeah, we'll go with the carbon skirts. For the spoiler, we can add a carbon wing, color-coded wing, carbon wing type 2, or a GT wing. All of them are honestly too extreme for my liking for this build in particular, so we're gonna just not add a wing. Next up for the suspension, I'm gonna drop this thing all the way down. You don't really get a lot of drop with this car, with the suspension, so we're just gonna drop it as much as we can. Next up for the wheels, I don't really know what I want to go with here. Looking at the track rims, because I feel like, I feel like this Super Lux works really well with this car. I feel like they fit this car really nicely. So that's an option we have. The throwbacks are also kind of sick. I'm gonna put on the throwbacks. I've never used these rims before, but I kind of like them. Now for the color of them, that's the next question. Almost want to go with like a bronze or something with this car. Maybe a copper? I feel like that kind of looks good. Let's go for it. Let's go for dark copper. Last but not least, let's tint out the windows. Obviously all the way out. I think that's looking pretty good. Let's take this thing down to the ground. We're gonna do a sound test and a full review. Alright guys, here we are on the ground. We're gonna do a sound test to start off with, so let's hear this thing. Honestly, it sounds a little basic to me. I'm gonna go ahead and say that the exhaust sound on this car is a 4 out of 10. It's nothing special, it's just like average, like it sounds alright. Maybe when we start moving, maybe I'll change my mind, who knows. Off the line, we do get pretty good traction. I do believe this thing is 4-wheel drive, if I'm not mistaken. Let's actually find out. Or maybe it's rear only. I feel like those front wheels are about to start moving. Or maybe I'm wrong. No, I think this thing is actually rear-wheel drive only. No, it is 4-wheel drive, I knew it. I knew it. Okay, so yeah, Dinka Jester is actually 4-wheel drive. Although a lot of the power is going to the rear wheels, that's for sure. So, well, that's never happened on a review before. I'm gonna repair the car. I'll be right back. Anyway, guys, as I was saying, I do think that this car has a pretty heavy rear wheel drive bias with its 4-wheel drive. I think it's got a pretty dominant rear end as far as the power split goes between the front and rear wheels, if that makes sense. I hope that that makes sense. I don't know. I know exactly what I'm trying to say. I just didn't exactly know how to say it there. But hopefully you guys get the message. You know, as I'm driving this thing, honestly, it's not sounding that terrible anymore. It sort of has, you know, a nice little whine to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and up the exhaust sound to a 5 on this car, because it's not as bad as some other cars. So it's a 5 out of 10. As far as the acceleration and the handling go, so far I am feeling pretty impressed with this car. I've always kind of been a fan of the Jester. I've always been an advocate for the Jester. This thing only costs $240,000 to buy it, so it is a pretty good deal for the price. It used to be one of the best sports cars in the game. Obviously nowadays it's overshadowed completely by the Italy GTO and a couple of other, you know, sports cars. But with that being said, it is still a very solid car for maybe just cruising around in free roam, or even if you want to take it into races. You won't come dead last probably, as long as you're not in a race full of, you know, Italy GTOs. So yeah, the Jester, it's a pretty good car. As far as the handling goes, I gotta say this thing does handle very, very nicely. I don't even have a spoiler on it right now too. So, you know, it could be handling even better than it is right now. It still is handling really, really nicely, so absolutely no complaints from me. I'm gonna go ahead and say the handling on this thing is probably an 8.5 out of 10. It handles really, really nicely. It understeers ever so slightly, but it's not bad enough to the point where like you shouldn't buy the car or something like that, or really even to the point where it's like annoying. As long as you like kind of know how to drive the car, you'll pretty much be fine with it. Except for right there. Obviously I don't know how to drive the car, but yeah, I think the handling, I think this thing deserves an 8.5 out of 10 as far as that goes. As far as the acceleration goes, I'm gonna have to say it's probably a 7.5 out of 10. It's pretty darn fast, but it's definitely not the fastest. It doesn't pull like an Italy GTO pulls, that's for sure. As far as the customizability of it, how many options it has, this car is actually pretty customizable, I gotta say. You can like completely change the look of this thing. You can make it into a really hardcore race car looking thing, or you can make it into, you know, more of a casual sports car. Either way, it looks really, really good, and I think the customization options that it has are pretty great. I'm going to go ahead and give the customization options on this car a 7.5 out of 10. Now, as far as the styling and the overall look of the car, it's based off of a BMW i8 loosely, but mostly it's based off of the new generation Acura NSX, which is a very, very cool car. I am a fan of the new generation NSX. I liked the earlier 2000s one a lot better, to be honest, but it's not the worst looking car ever. And as far as the Jester goes in GTA, I do think that it is one of the better looking cars in the game, especially at the price point of only $240,000, which is not much money in GTA these days. So overall, I'm going to say the styling on this car is probably a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 seems to be a pretty common theme with this car. It's a good car. It's like, it's the ultimate, like, it's 75% good car. Like, there's not much that's wrong with it. Most of everything with this car is good, if not, you know, average or better, but it just doesn't do all the things, you know, the best it could, but it does them very, very well. So especially for 240 grand, I don't think you can even go wrong with buying a Jester. I don't think you'll really be disappointed unless you take it into a race full of GTOs, then you're gonna lose. But it is a very, very impressive car, especially for $240,000 in GTA Online. I would highly recommend picking this thing up, guys, if you don't have one already. And I think that's pretty much it for the customization and the review today. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you learned something, leave a like, if not dislike, subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.